So, you want to main Gangplank. Well, do you like pirates? Do you like oranges? Do you like gunpowder? Do you like being a badass? And do you like deleting the enemy AD carry's health bar? Then Gangplank, the Saltwater Scourge, is for you.
An enemy has been slain.
Whoa. Gangplank's lore is that he was a ruthless and feared pirate, and he earned his reputation by raiding and pillaging all over Runeterra, being called the Reaver King by many, and even pissed off Swain by stealing his ship, the Leviathan, at one point. He seemed untouchable for so long, and no one wanted to stand against him in his ruthlessness. But this aura of invulnerability was shattered when misfortune blew up his ship and him with it, in an attempt to get revenge for him murdering her parents a long time ago. She thought he died, but he somehow survived, and is now pissed as hell and trying to reclaim what he lost, as well as having a cool metal arm after losing his original arm in the blast. In-game, Gangplank is a very squishy melee champ that excels at wave clear and zoning, and can be built as a bruiser, but generally wants to build full crit and completely delete the enemy team. Not to mention he can heal himself super easily and cancel out some of the most annoying and hard to fight abilities in the entire game. Gangplank's kit has changed a lot over the years. I mean, he was one of the original 40 champions after all, but he is such a blast to play. I will warn you though, if you don't know what you are doing on him, you will get clowned on a lot. If you fall behind, it'll be super hard to get caught back up, so I'd recommend playing him in norms until you've got him down enough so that you can play him in ranked. And if you think you're ready, practice some more. Trust me, you're gonna need it, seeing as Gangplank is one of the hardest champs to play in the entire game. Maybe not quite up there with the Azir of Phelios, but more like a Draven level. However, all that aside, GP is honestly my favorite champion in the entire game, and I always have so much fun playing him. I really hope you guys give him a shot. So let's get to his kit. Gangplank's passive is Ignite on a Stick. Every 15 seconds, his next auto does true damage that scales with 100% of your bonus AD over 2.5 seconds, and grants him 50% movement speed that scales with level for 2 seconds, and also does 50% damage to turrets. Destroying a powder keg refreshes this cooldown and gives the same movement speed, and here's some fiery math. Gangplank's passive is actually really strong, especially since it scales with 100% of your bonus AD, so it can chunk enemies pretty good, considering it does true damage that scales with 100% of your bonus AD. Plus, the extra speed is a cherry on top to help you get out of fights quickly when you need to, particularly in tandem with his E, but we'll get to that in a minute. The fact that you can instantly refresh it means it's also fantastic at chucking down towers. Seriously, getting 3 passives off on 1 tower in quick succession is a lot of damage. Next is Gangplank's Q, which is the obligatory ARR joke. It's a single point-and-click bullet that does physical damage scaling with level plus 100% of your AD. It triggers on hit effects, not including your passive, and also crits. If you get a last hit on a minion, monster, or champion, you also gain bonus gold and silver serpents, which are used to upgrade your ultimate at the shop, and here's some deadly point-and-click math. Gangplank's Q is his main damage tool in the early game. It's a point-and-click with high damage and incredibly low cooldown and mana cost, especially since you max it first. The fact that it crits and applies on hit effects other than your passive is why it's so broken. If you build your items right, a single shot can do close to 1,000 damage. 1,000 damage on a point-and-click, that's insane! Let's move on to his W, which is Vitamin C, the cure for crowd control. Gangplank eats an orange that heals him for a flat rate, plus 90% of your AP, plus 50% of your missing health. It also removes all disabling effects, and here's some fruity math. Gangplank's W is actually really bullshit. It's a QSS on a basic ability that heals you a lot. I repeat, it's a QSS on a basic ability that also heals you a lot. You heal for a decent amount, and you literally get to remove any CC on you, whether it's a stun, root, silent, suppressed, Mordekaiser ult, it does not matter. Slowed? Eat an orange. Hit by a Morgana or Lux Q? Eat an orange. About to be grinded by Urgot? Fuck you, I have citrus fruit. It's super annoying for your opponent, but it has a pretty long cooldown early in the game since you'll be maxing it last, so you'll have to save or any kind of CC you may encounter, but don't be afraid to use it in an emergency if you're going to die from damage. Next we have Gangplank's E, which is deleting you from the next screen over. Gangplank drops a powder keg that has 3 health bars that take down to 1 over 2 seconds. If Gangplank last hits a barrel, it explodes, slowing all enemies in the radius by 40% for 2 seconds, and also does the damage of the attack that made the barrel explode, ignoring 40% of the enemy's armor, and does physical damage that scales with level. Enemies that last hit the barrel disarm it and get 10 gold. Barrels that are connected by their explosion radii will chain and also explode no matter what health they have, but the damage does not stack. They also disappear after being on 1 health for 25 seconds. He starts with 3 barrels, which eventually turns to 5. You can get bonus gold and silver serpents if the case is triggered by a Q. They can also crit at 125% effectiveness, and oh boy, that was a lot. The powder kegs are the main reason you play Gangplank. They're an excellent zoning tool since your opponent doesn't want to get near them, lest they take an exploding barrel to the face, and potentially their entire health bar as well. They also are amazing at clearing minion waves for split pushing, and the added slow means the enemy is going to have a hard time getting away from you if they get caught in the blast. They do so much. They clear waves, they zone, they do bullshit amounts of damage, they have crazy range, they slow, they refresh your passive. They do so much. And learning how to use your barrels effectively is pretty much most of learning Gangplank in general. I still haven't mastered them yet. Finally, we have Gangplank's ultimate, which is the Global Misfortune E. Gangplank signals his ship to fire 12 waves of cannonballs in an area with global range for 8 seconds that deals magic damage plus 10% of your AP. Each wave slows by 30% for 0.5 seconds, also gives you vision of the zone, has 3 upgrades which you can purchase at the shop for 500 silver serpents each. The first is Fire at Will, which makes waves increase their rate of fire over time, adding additional 6 waves. The second is Death's Daughter, which drops a massive cannonball at the beginning of the ult in the center that does 300% true damage and slows for 60% for 1.5 seconds. And the last is Raise Morale, which gives your allies 30% movement speed while they are under the barrage, and here is some Iron Rain math. Yeesh, that was a lot, but it's actually pretty simple without all the math. Cannonballs rain down on a spot you want anywhere on the map and slows enemies inside it. Magic damage is the only reason you ever want to build AP on Gangplank, but even then I never play AP-GP in a ranked game. The added bonus with it, because it's really kind of lackluster in practice, minus the awesome laugh anyone hears in the ult's vicinity, are the upgrades. Fire Will is the best because it adds an extra chunk of waves, meaning more damage, and you always want to get that one first. Raise Morale is alright, and the extra movement speed plus the slow on your enemies basically makes it so any enemy caught in it is basically toast. And Death's Daughter is still good, but that cannonball is so clearly telegraphed and easily avoidable that it's really hard to hit, so good luck with that. Skill max, it's widely accepted that it's QEW. Q first because it's your main damage tool early game and it is up so often it can almost be considered having a ranged and a melee auto attack. E second because having more barrels that take down is faster is super nice, and I feel like I don't need to explain why W is last. Also, levels 1 through 3 are the same as your skill max. But how do I play Gangplank?
10 years you carry that pistol, now you waste your shot.
He didn't waste it.
Here's how you play Gangplank. Go to the store, buy some oranges. Eat them all, then drink some rum. Say a bunch of really badass quotes in a deep, gravelly voice, and there you go. Okay, all joking aside, here's what you should do. Early game, you are super squishy and will die extremely fast, especially to the champs that have more damage and melee than you do, so you want to play safe. Use your Q to poke and force them to back off while you farm minions safely, and also you can use your Q to last hit minions if autoing them is too dangerous. Once you hit level 2, you have a bit more leeway with your barrels. Stand in your minion wave when it's safe to do so, and place a barrel next to you. Your enemies will be scared to farm because of the explosion. Use this to farm the wave safely, and only make it explode if the enemy later gets into its radius. Always stand next to the barrel when possible, so that when your enemy goes to disarm it, you'll see them move toward it and you can auto it first, since auto is faster than your Q. Also, if you see a fight break out somewhere else on the map, don't be afraid to drop your ult to help your teammates. I promise, more often than not, it gives your allies the edge till they need to win the fight, and helping your team helps you in the long run. If you're lucky, you may even pick up a kill. Mid-game, you likely have bought some crit, and your barrels and Q do quite a bit of damage. You still have to play safe though. Once you use your W, you're as susceptible to CC as everyone else is. Use your barrels to force the enemy back until they get desperate to farm, and then blow them up. Then wail on their tower until it's down. Don't forget to poke them with your Q when possible. The damage is not to be ignored. Also, use the refreshing passive to shred their turret by hitting the turret once with an auto, then place 2 barrels going to the back of the tower, then Q the first one and immediately auto the turret again. If you timed it right, the first barrel will explode, which refreshes your passive, which you end up using on the tower again, and then when your next auto comes, the second barrel will have exploded, and you'll have hit the tower with your passive 3 times in a row, super fast, which I remind you does true damage that scales with 100% of your bonus AD. Although it only does 50% to towers, but still, 150% of your bonus AD in true damage over 5 seconds is huge. Once you've won top lane, start helping your teammates take their towers if they haven't already. When you go for objectives like Baron, Rift Herald, Drake, and Elder, save your barrels to zone the enemy if they get too close. Because you can chain them across walls, it's really easy to catch them off guard if you have vision on them. Late game, once you've built enough crit, your Q and barrels will hit like a fully stacked Nasus Q, so use that to your advantage to catch the enemy off guard, and potentially one-shot enemy squishies like the ADC, while severely chunking tanks, seeing as the barrels ignore 40% of the enemy's armor. Keep zoning the enemy and deleting squishies, and you'll win the game. Side note, your W cooldown is laughably low for its power in late game, and your mana regen will be so high you can use it repeatedly to heal yourself when out of combat, and is better than any health potion you could buy. Also, if you picked a more bruiser build, your barrels won't crit as much, but they'll still do a lot of damage and slow. You just won't be able to one-shot squishies like if you built full crit/lethality. Getting barrels timed right and placed right is like most of learning Gangplank, so I'll teach you a few combos that I know. The first one is the basic 2-barrel chain. Drop a barrel, auto it, then place the second barrel so the radii connect, and then auto requeue the first one. Super simple. The next one is a triple barrel. Same thing, except you should stand a bit away from your first barrel at max Q range. Cue the Ferris barrel, but as the shot is firing, place a third barrel wherever you need to, and it'll explode when it appears, catching your opponent off guard. This is often referred to as the ghost barrel. You can do the ghost barrel with only 2 barrels, but it's much harder to pull off and requires a lot of practice. I still haven't even fully mastered it yet. You also can hide a barrel in a bush and use Ghost Barrel to completely catch them off guard with the damage, but be careful because if you fuck up the Ghost Barrel, it'll just leave behind the second barrel right next to the enemy for them to disarm, and then you've just wasted 2 barrels. If you want even more barrel combos, I don't know, go watch Solar Bucket, I guess. He has a whole video on how to use barrels, and you can always go and watch that. He's probably a more credible source, being the rank 1 Gangplank NA and all, but hey, you know. For runes, generally Grasp the Undying is your best bet, as the extra health gain is really helpful since GP needs all the extra health he can get. But if you're in a matchup with a champion you win against very easily, like Shen or Mordekaiser, then it's not a bad idea to take First Strike for the extra gold and damage. Also, Futures Market is a must on GP. You get extra gold with your Q, and since you're going to be using Q a lot to farm, the ability to get your items faster than everybody else will really rocket you ahead of the enemy team, assuming their jungler is an 8-1 or something like that. This is my rune page I usually use for Grasp, and this is the one I usually take for First Strike. And here is a page for AP Gangplank if you want to have some fun. For items, it depends on the matchup. Generally you want to start with Corrupting Pop, but your first buy pretty much always has to be Sheen. The added damage is too strong since you can sort of store a Sheen proc in a barrel by autoing it once, then use the Sheen proc from a second barrel to do extra damage because of the auto damage being done in the explosion, in addition to doing the explosion damage, plus crit once you have some, makes it a must-have when playing Gangplank. The rest of your items depends on the matchup. You usually take these items in some form of Prowlers as your mythic, but always Essence Reaver first since he builds from Sheen. But if you're against a tougher matchup like Aurelia or Camille, it's probably smarter to abandon those first two and go Triforce for the Sheen, into Axiomark for the damage, plus the rest of your crit build for extra survivability. Axiomark makes up for the damage you lose with not taking Prowler's Claw, and its out cooldown is always nice, plus it has a shitload of lethality. Generally for crit, you want to build LDR and Infinity Edge, but if the enemy is really squishy, you can build Collector, or if they have a lot of healing, you can also build Mortal Reminder. If you're playing AP Gangplank, throw all that out the window and build as much MR as you can, going for Leandri's as your mythic. For boots, you usually want Lucidity boots for the ability haste, but if you need extra armor, then you can always go Tabbies. As for sums, Flash and Teleport are your best bets, but don't be afraid to take Ignite instead of TP into matchups like Garen that usually do take Ignite to not lose any combat edge. Gangplank counters are champs that can dive him easily and deal a lot of damage either up close or so far away he can't reach them. Tryndamere is the worst one, I ban him every game, but some other hard matchups are Aurelia, Camille, Riven, and Jace. Aurelia because her Q heals her as she dives you and her E plus ult equals you can't escape from her. Camille because her passive shields some of your damage and her Q hits like a truck. Riven because her constant stuns are really annoying and you only have one orange during her combo. And Jace because he can poke you just as hard as you can poke him and he's super good at popping your barrels. Champs that work well with Gangplank are the ones that can CC the enemy for him to land his barrels onto, or that can take large amounts of damage for him. Ideally, that can do both. Champs like Nunu, Blitzcrank, and Galio are some good examples, since they do all of those things. They're really good at diving, they're all tanks, and they have some CC for your barrels. The skins we have for Gangplank are the Flying Dutchman Gangplank, Imperial Empire Gangplank, Popeye Gangplank, Toy Story Gangplank, Badass Marine Gangplank, 40 Thieves Gangplank, The Chad Gangplank, Full Metal Gangplank, King of the Grill Gangplank, and Power Ranger Gangplank. So let's wrap up Gangplank. He's a squishy fighter that can one-shot almost any squishy in the game and severely chunk tanks, but requires items and not falling behind to get to that point. Bruiser GP isn't as high in damage, but makes up for that with extra health and survivability, and he's a champ that's really hard to learn, but super rewarding to master. And before I go, here are the Gangplank clips. Enjoy. Oh, you're not getting away. Hey, look at that, got a kill. Okay, there's the ult. Yeah, this guy's bad.
Trail stings like salt on a wound.
He down. There we go.
Enemy double kill.
We're either taking somebody or dying.
There's no in between.
No.
I have no mana and I'm being freaking.
Kev, come with me, bro. We're trying to run a tower. Come, bro, come.
Hey, let's go! And I burned his flash and ignite. Oh no, you don't. Oh shit. No you don't, no you don't. Yeah! Let's go! Well everyone, thank you for watching. If this guide got you to Challenger, be sure to like the video and subscribe for more gaming content. I do more than just League content, and I would love it if some of you check out some of my other stuff, as well as my Twitch channel, EndRuler411. I don't stream on there as often as I used to, but I still stream every once in a while, so go ahead and check that out too. Well everyone, my name's been EndRuler, and please don't fuck up my solo queue. Bye bye.